Good morning, everyone. I'm Nayaswami Krishna Das. This is my wife, Nayaswami Mantra Devi. It's good to be with you again. So this topic today, what is it to fail spiritually? I wouldn't have chosen it to speak today, approaching Christmas so soon, but then I started thinking about it and I thought it's a good topic, because we have a lot of misunderstandings about what it is to fail, period, and particularly spiritually. This reading today was beautiful on the 10 virgins. What is it to fail spiritually? Essentially and most simply put, for us as devotees, disciples, would be to give up. If we give up. Or if we, don't engage ourselves dynamically and we lose heart. We need to keep our devotion strong. That's essentially what this reading is saying. Devotion is everything. We all are going to be tested. We all, as you know, if you're sitting in this room, you've been tested and will continue to be tested. This is how our karma unfolds. But we have to keep the faith and keep striving on. This is what it's about. I would say if you fail, well, you try again. You don't label yourself a failure, because if you do, you're the only one that's doing that. You could have a few judgmental friends, I don't know. But God is not judging you that way. God knows you better than you know yourself. Letting that particular test in just the right way for you to grow, and that's what we have to have faith about. So even if we can understand that we're not going to give in to that thought as being a failure, I would say it's a failing not to try your hardest. Now we can all admit to that. Master says, Yogananda, he says that we have to give it everything we got, and that it's our lukewarm, kind of lackluster devotion, our half-hearted try, our half-horsepower attempts, he called it. We could all admit to that, because life, it's long and it's up and down, and it's not always exciting as we would like in any way. So we have our lot in as devotees to find it within. And Yogananda said, everything is within us. Ye are gods. Find that love, find the devotion, find the enthusiasm, and put it into everything. And that's how we grow, and that's how we enjoy life to the fullest. Devotion. Now, when our energy drops, these tests come, and what happens is we lose our devotion. We lose our faith, we lose our trust that God is in charge. Because if we went around this room and said, do you believe in God? We would all say yes. Do you love the Guru? Yes. Do you believe he's guiding your life? Yes. We would all say yes to that. However, when these things come in, these tests come, and we lose our devotion. If we said, do you still have devotion? Yes, I have devotion. I have devotion to the Guru. But you don't when these tests come and you lose your faith and you lose your trust. That doesn't add up to devotion. Your devotion is waning at that time. So that's why Master and Swami Kriyananda said the main thing to do is we have to keep our devotion strong. So this reading that the 10 virgins, the 5 virgins that kept their lamps full of oil, and the 5 that let them run down, let them run out. As Yogananda translated. The lamp is the many multicolored religions of the world, the outward practices as well as the inward practices, the techniques of meditation, and so on. The oil in the lamp is the devotion to that, and then the wick is the heart. So he said we should keep the wick of our heart trimmed, and we should keep our lamps full of devotion. And when the devotion in our hearts runs low or runs out, we aren't ready for when the Christ consciousness or for when God comes. We aren't ready. Those 5 virgins that kept their lamps full received the Christ consciousness and ascended, went off with him. The others had to wait for the next time around, and you never know when that time's going to come. So there again, we never really hold ourselves in any kind of diminished thought because of what's going on in our life. It does matter. Again, that's how we grow. That's how we grow spiritually. But that doesn't determine our worthiness. It doesn't determine where we are in our consciousness. It shouldn't. If we remain open and receptive, full of trust and faith that the Guru is guiding all of it, and the Guru is going to help you through it, and we'll be ready when in any particular meditation. I was thinking the billboards always say, or the ads, 21 days till Christmas. It's the 4th today, if you didn't know. And, to get ready for Christmas, to get all your shopping done. Well, we have 21 days to get in the spirit. Now, obviously, we're not going to wait. We live it every day. If you're meditating every day, and you're reading the teachings every day, and you're trying to attune yourself to God and Guru every day, we should be ready every day. That's the whole point of these holidays. Christmas should be every day, but you'll probably hear that in services to come. I wanted to touch base on this reading in the Gita and draw that out a little bit. And we have the teachings we should be so grateful for. Yogananda in this line, our gurus, they brought what? The most, the deepest, purest, newly expressed scriptures just right for us, because we're in tune with them. But everything got shredded through Kali Yuga, lots of dogmas and dogmatism and sectarianism and translations that were no longer in line with truth. And he brought it all back, and we can take it in fully without any filters, because it's coming from a God-realized master. Just take it in and align yourself with it. One being, even if you did consider yourself a failure and that you err, again, it's not good to admit that, call yourself a failure. Just like Master says about you may sin or err, we call it err, rather than it's the worst sin is to call yourself a sinner. Well, I would say that's in line with that. To call yourself a failure would be not good. Rather, you have failed. You have not come up to the highest mark, perhaps. That's okay. In the Gita, it says, Swamiji, in that other reading, it just picked, Arjuna, none who works for self-redemption will ever meet an evil destiny. And then it goes on, a fallen yogi, when he dies, attains the heavenly regions of the virtuous. Many the years he dwells there joyfully, and when at last he must return to earth, his past true deeds will cause him to take birth in some pure, noble-minded family, happy in virtue and prosperity. Even if it may be that he will take birth into a home of yogis, calm and wise, enlightened souls. But this kind of birth is all too rarely come by here on earth. So he says that our past practices will spur us on in that next life. So we have nothing but to be grateful for. I was thinking about, what could happen in our lives that would really cause us to give up? I was reading this amazing story about the Manhattan Bridge. It's called the Miracle Bridge. There was a guy named John Robley, and he was an engineer, built bridges, and he had the idea of spanning this bridge from Manhattan to Brooklyn. And all of the experts in that time said never could be done, never could be done. So he thought about it, and he designed a plan, brought his son into it, Washington Robley, who was an up-and-coming engineer and bridge builder. So they went in on it, and they designed, engineered a blueprint for it, and they managed to get banks to back it and so on. 3 months into it, there was a horrible on-site tragedy, and John Robley died. He was killed. His son, Washington, was left paralyzed. He couldn't talk or walk. He's in the hospital, critical care. So in time, he thought of a way to communicate, because his mind was still sharp. So he thought of a way to communicate. And his wife never left his side, so he tapped out the instructions on how to build this bridge. So they carried on. It took 13 years of him tapping out a code, and they finished the bridge. Now, is that amazing or what? I mean, stories like that are just so inspiring. And I would think, so, I don't know, maybe someone in this room has faced some test like that, or a close relative, but you can see that in comparison to that, for him to never give up, I would say most people will have just, thrown in the towel and given up. He didn't. So examples like that, think, wow, we never should give in to our little chattering mind that tries to diminish us and tries to hold us in our faults and shortcomings, like I said, our failing. We are children of God. Yogananda would drum that into his disciples. He's drumming it into us. Everything he writes is about us, that ye are gods, he says, as Christ said. And that we could overcome anything that comes at us. Anything. He's given us all the teachings we could want. Translated everything. The Bible, the Gita, Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, Ruba Kayam, affirmations. The masters, did they ever pull away from us? Never. Jesus said, I will be with you until the end of time. Lahiri said, I am ever with those who practice Kriya. Yogananda said, those who think me near, I will be near. Swami Kriyananda asked Yogananda, he said, what's the most important quality on the spiritual path? Yogananda said, deep sincerity and devotion. And there it is again. Devotion. However, when we're practicing the deep sincerity and devotion, then in our everyday living, we have to relax into that. Relaxation is important. Concentration in whatever we're doing, and intensity. So we have, again, the practices. He said if he was on a desert island and all we had was energization exercises, that would be enough. Would figure out all the other techniques through that. Hong Saw, practice that 2 hours a day and you could become a master. What more to say about Kriya? Those techniques. So we need to do them. I was thinking about we have everything at right here in our hand, but we lose our momentum. I was thinking one whole talk could just be, okay, do them. These techniques, do them. And let them unfold. Let your consciousness unfold. That's what the gurus have come. That's what Yogananda came. That's what Swami Kriyananda lived his whole life an example of. So, and then Yogananda said, do 10% of what I've given you. And then another time he said 1%, and you will find God. Because that lifeline, holding onto the guru's, the hem of his robe, he will get us there. But we have to keep that attunement to the guru. And all these ways are ways we can do that, dynamically. So he said, intensity is everything. Intensity of awareness. So all the practices that we have to do them enthusiastically. We have to do them with intensity. Because he said intensity is everything. Intensity of awareness. And when we slip into this sort of lukewarm, lackluster kind of, energy, it doesn't serve us. And then we wonder why we're kind of, not quite on or not enjoying ourselves. All of it is about raising our level of consciousness, raising our level of energy, and then everything sparkles. How is it when after you had a heavy meal or, you're a bit lethargic, nothing can turn you on. How is it after you meditate? Everything is so enjoyable. Everything kind of sparkles. You're in a different consciousness, a different dimension. And we could be living that life all the time. We're our own, it's like right within us we have these two factions, the soul and the ego. And it's always doing battle. And whatever is trying to take us down and diminish us, it's ego. Align ourselves with soul, and everything works. Krishna in the Gita says, put full force of soul in thy soul. Because that our soul is God within us. And one of the aspects of God is what? Power. Put full power into everything we do. Intensity of awareness. Yogananda in Swami Kriyananda shares these stories in the path, where he was this one woman that was 80 years old. She came onto the path. She was an atheist all of her life. She came on the path and got Kriya Yoga. Would do Kriya. Yogananda said when she wasn't doing Kriya, she would listen to his poem, God, God, God. And in 3 years, she reached liberation. Wow. Because she went into it with intensity. Another example Swami uses in the path was Miss Darling, this nun. They said they were painting Mount Washington, and some of the monks were kind of painting it lackadaisically, like making peace offerings to the building, he said. And then Miss Darling he said, she fairly attacked the walls. Her brush was going back and forth so fast. He said, that's the spirit we need to find God. Swami Kriyananda, he was an amazing person, amazing saint. He had so much energy, and he never, ever sort of let his energy wane. He was always on to the next thing. I had the blessing of recording his dawn radio shows. So these were 20 minutes, 16 of talking. I forget the exact formula, but I know that he had to talk so many minutes. I think it was 16. So we had this big clock. He'd invite some people to be there while he was doing it. We had this big clock, and so we'd start it, and he'd start talking. And he would be out into the gases, at 15 minutes. I think he's never going to be able to do this, and he would wrap it all up, bring it down into some beautiful conclusion right on the 16th minute. And that would be a feat, wouldn't it? He did 8 of them in a row. Okay, what's the next topic? We'd call out a topic, he'd do another one. And he's always had some deadlines because he's going on a trip or he's got the next thing he wants to do. He did 8 of them that day. It's a phenomenon, really. But he showed us how, because he lived a life and was practiced at intensity of awareness. That intensity of awareness brings God consciousness. Right in the moment, to bring you a solution, to uplift your energy, to help you do whatever task you're about to do. And that, if he can do it, he's saying, we can do it. He was an example for us. What we have coming up, another Christmas, another 8-hour meditation, another concert. We are blessed. We really are. To live our lives like this. And to have so much richness of spirit and upliftment. And so what do we have? We have satsang, spiritual family. You know, just think of some of the things that's going on in the world today. And we're living in some tough times. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but even before this election, there's wars everywhere. No one's lobbing bombs over the border into Rancho Cordova, right? We get up, we think about what we're going to have for breakfast, we meditate, we go off to work perhaps, whatever you do. We certainly don't have those things to contend with. This is a blessed life that we're living. And we're in an environment that, with having spiritual family, that we could really make gains. We could really make gains. So this isn't going to be some evangelical talk, but I would say, you know, we can always use a bit of some fire, you know, underneath us to get us moving. Because life, that's the way it is. It's like lethargy, inertia, you know, routine. So we have to be creative within our sadhana. Mix it up. Don't change the techniques, but mix it up a little bit. So it's fresh. So that it's fresh and ever new. Because that's what God is, ever new joy, right? I have if we apply ourselves, we have the promise of all the masters. And even if we do die trying, we can't think we failed. The master said he will be there, or one of the other masters at the end of our life. He didn't say, he said, if we have the thought, thought is everything, right? In the Bible, so this second coming of Christ that Yogananda talked about is waiting for each and every one of us. If we prepare the cradle of our heart with love, with devotion, with fervor, intensity of devotion, it's waiting. It's guaranteed. When Christ was literally born in Mary, and Mary went to her cousin Anne, who was also carrying John the Baptist. And what did she say? She said, "He who is mighty has done unto me a mighty thing." He who is mighty has done unto me a mighty thing. So this is what Yogananda promises. Do not expect a blossom every day in the garden of your life. Have faith that the Lord to whom you have surrendered yourself will bring you divine fulfillment at the proper time. Faith and trust in that. You have already sown the seed of God realization. Water it with prayer and right actions. Remove the weeds of doubt, indecision, and lethargy. When sprouts of divine perception appear, tend them with care. One morning, you will behold the flower of self-realization. And he who is mighty will have done unto you a mighty thing.